Okay, ladies and gentlemen, are we ready to get started? We have the Terry Norris with Harvester Christian Church, Terry Norris, to do the invocation, and then Joe Cronin will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Father God, we come to you humbly tonight. Lord, we ask that you would give everyone in this room wisdom, compassion, discernment. We thank you that we live in a country where you have blessed us with the opportunity to self-govern. And we thank you for the members of this council who have been elected by the people of this county to see that the rules and laws of this county are obeyed, that they're enforced to the best interest of the people. Lord, we ask you that you would go before us tonight, that you would resolve any disputes with grace and mercy, that you would lead us to the places that will be beneficial for all, that no self-interest will rise up in this room, that we can all stand before you and know in our hearts that we've sought the best interest of our brothers and sisters who also live in this county, Lord. We ask that you would give us a spirit of peace, of gentleness, of kindness, that you would walk with us, that you would lead us in the way that you would have us go, God. And we ask all these things in the name of your Son. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Roll call.
Councilmember Joe Cronin.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Elam. Councilmember Dave Hammond.
Here.
Councilmember Joe Brazel.
Here.
Councilmember Terry Hollander.
Here.
Councilmember Mike Klinghammer.
Here.
Councilmember John White.
Here.
Okay, we'll start public comments. We allow 3 minutes per topic, 3 speakers, pro and con per issue. You're allowed to talk about anything you like on the agenda or any county business. Could I have my first speaker, please?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. A.C. Dienoff, County Resident and Public Advocate. A couple things that I wanted to go over with the County Council. The first one is the OATS bid, I believe it's Older Adults Transportation Service bid, in the amount of $50,000. My question to the County Council and County staff is this money enough to provide transportation to residents over 62 years of age and to disabled residents in Weldon Springs, Cottleville, Darden Prairie, unincorporated county in the city of St. Peters, and I believe there's a number of other small municipalities such as Augusta, New Melly. But you know, our county is over 400,000 in population, and I just don't feel that this $50,000 is enough to cover the transportation needs for older adults and people with disabilities. The Office of County Public Information, is it really necessary to spend $35,608 for a county newsletter? Most of my neighbors and people in my neighborhood say that it automatically goes in the trash or the recycling bin. Rather than posting this information to the county's website for viewing and consumption. I think that there can be other ways, such as the electronic billboards that are a lot less expensive than the $35,000. I believe we do it 2 to 3 times a year. Last Monday, May 19th, the St. Charles County Junior Community College District Board of Trustees wrongly appointed a person to a vacancy in that office. I'm calling for an investigation of the county prosecuting attorney, Tim Lohmeyer. I'm very concerned about the slam dunk, in-your-face, unethical, illegal closed session meeting that was held, and for the appointment of Mrs. Lohmeyer, who, by the way, was not even asked if she wanted to hold the position. And just to let the public know, Mrs. Lohmeyer is the mother of the county prosecutor, Tim Lohmeyer, over myself for the trustee position of the St. Charles Community College District Board of Trustees. I'm asking that you, as a county prosecutor, investigate these wrongdoings. I'm asking that 4 members of the Board of Trustees be investigated or in violation and not in compliance of the law, Chapter 178 and Chapter 610 of the Missouri State Statutes, which deal with community college districts and the Open Meetings Act. For public disclosure, this board includes the spouse of the county executive. There was no transparency and there was zero fairness, illegal conduct, and I'm asking the prosecutor Lohmeyer that we first need to grieve and honor your father who held that seat. And it's not even been a week since the Monday, May 19th appointment. It was only about 4 days, and since Mr. Lohmeyer's burial. How unprofessional and mean of this board to take this very wrong action. This was a closed session, and I'm asking it to be fully investigated. Thank you.
Is there another speaker, please, on any other topics with the county? Yes, sir.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Michael Herr. I'm actually in District 1. I was just looking for more clarification on the bill 4228 in relationship to the executive, the county executive entering into agreements with federal law enforcement. So if you could give me any feedback on that. I think on the agenda tonight, the bill is up for final passage, but before it gets passed, I just want to know a little bit more in depth about, how, as it reads that the St. Charles County Police Department is going into agreement with the federal government, taking over law enforcement duties previously held by the Sheriff's Department. So what are all the duties that are entailed with that? As it lists here, in conjunction with the DEA, the FBI, FEMA, Department of Homeland Security. If there's any more information that the council can give, that'd be much appreciated. Thank you.
We'll talk about that when the bill comes up. We'll ask the chief some questions.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments or concerns anybody would like to express tonight? Okay, moving on to the oral report from the county executive.
Mr. Chairman, I have no report, and we can go ahead and talk about that last bill the gentleman asked us to talk about now, or we can wait till we get to it. It's my understanding that there's nothing new in there, simply changing the name from Sheriff's Department to Police Department. But I'll let Dave give you more information on that. That's all I have.
Thank you, Steve. Consent agenda. Are there any items to be removed? Seeing none?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Consent agenda has been approved. Moving on to bills for final passage. Bill number 4219.
Bill number 4219, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from C1 PUD Neighborhood Commercial District with Planned Unit Development Overlay District to R1D PUD Single Family Residential District with Planned Unit Development Overlay District, and amending the final development plan and approving a preliminary plat for Jackson Estates.
Any questions or concerns on 4219? Mr. Cronin?
Yeah, this has been a controversial development in my district for quite a few years, and I think finally we've come to some agreement between the landowners that are concerned about the development and county staff and the new developer. And essentially, the project originally was probably way too dense for the surrounding area. But as a result of the changes, there's now about a third less cars projected for the area. The apartments are gone from the plan, which is, since it's a rural area, I think a lot of people are very happy with. 90% of the commercial's gone, which I think is a positive. Also, a good portion of the property, in fact, most of the property was zoned C1 through what I was told was a loophole from years past. The proposal before us tonight will eliminate the C1 zoning from the east side of the development, and the developer previously has stated he has no problem with getting C1 on the west side of the development. So after consulting with county staff, we're going to go ahead and move forward with getting the C1 zoning removed from the west side as well through county government action. There was also a lot of concerns about traffic. Robert Myers did a nice job of summarizing the traffic study that was for the improvements that was done for the original project, which was a third bigger than it is now. And Robert seemed to think that the improvements made to the Dietrich Road area years back when this development started were adequate to handle the development the way it's envisioned now to proceed forward. I asked Joanne to get me Highway Patrol accident data from '04 to this year to see if the last 10 years, there's been a huge increase in traffic accidents in that area. And they really haven't. And a lot of the traffic accidents were like hitting a deer or running off the median and running into the median on Highway 61, which were accidents that really couldn't be blamed on Dietrich Road or Dietrich Road traffic. The most accidents in a year in that area were 6, according to state, and the least were 1. And for instance, in 2014, there was 3. So based on all of that, there's a lot of pluses to this new plan too. There's a bit more open space, a bit more common ground. As I said before, 90% less commercial, no apartments. And then the other thing too, to the existing residents of Jackson Estates, more homes out there mean that the water system and the sewer system become more functional and less expensive to operate. So the existing residents are going to get some benefits from the new neighbors too. So I would like to congratulate the developer for being someone that would work with county staff and taking a development that's been a real pain in the keister and turn it into a positive development that I think is going to be good for the area. There'll be some additional hurdles to go through down the road, but you know, I think he's exhibited a willingness to work with county staff. And I think Mr. Bogart and some of his folks have been, I've kept him abreast of everything, and I think right now we're ready to move forward with it. I think it's I don't like the size of a few of the lots, but I asked his engineer that, you know, they had to do that to provide the extra open space and green space and preserve amount of lots to make it functional. So I think it's a good fit for the existing residents, the surrounding neighbors in the area, and I'm hoping the developer's successful because I think he's put some good effort out to try to make the development a better fit for the community.
Are there any additional comments on 4219? Seeing none, Donna?
Bill 4219, an ordinance amending the zoning district map of the County of St. Charles, Missouri by rezoning land from C1 PUD Neighborhood Commercial District with Planned Unit Development Overlay District to R1D PUD Single Family Residential District with Planned Unit Development Overlay District, and amending the final development plan and approving a preliminary plat for Jackson Estates. Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Bill 4219 is passed. Move on to Bill 4220.
Bill number 4220, an ordinance authorizing the county executive or his designee to execute documentation for acceptance of a grant from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, to fund 100% of the projected total costs of acquiring and demolishing 3 residential structures, sustaining severe and repetitive loss in flood hazard zones of unincorporated St. Charles County, and further authorizing the county executive or his designee to execute documents and perform acts that may be required for purchasing and demolishing those structures.
Any questions or comments on 4220? I got a quick question on this. John or Mike, you guys are working with these folks?
Yeah, these are 3 structures that we're not forcing it. They've requested it.
And it's 100% buyout, or?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, Donna.
An ordinance authorizing the county executive or his designee to execute documentation for acceptance of a grant from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, to fund 100% of the projected total costs of acquiring and demolishing 3 residential structures, sustaining severe and repetitive loss in flood hazard zones of unincorporated St. Charles County, and further authorizing the county executive or his designee to execute documents and perform acts that may be required for purchasing and demolishing those structures. Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Bill 4220 is passed. Moving on to substitute bill. Is that what we're moving?
I'm going to
All right, 4221.
Bill number 4221, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Wentzville for road improvements needed to support the operations of a new logistics optimization center that will supply auto parts and provide other services to the Wentzville GM plant.
Mr. Cronin or Mr. Klinghammer?
I was going to say, I'd like to make a motion to amend Bill 4221 and replace it with substitute Bill 4221. I'll do that first, then I have a question.
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, substitute bill 4221.
Okay, basically this corrected, the name and whatnot, but it also, the cost of the project went up by about 17%. I'm curious as to why it went up. Is the road changed from where we were, or did we just get better estimates come in?
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Dan Lang, Director of Economic Development for the City of Wentzville. I also have with me Mark Grimm, who's an attorney with the firm of Gilmore and Bell that serves as bond counsel. The reason that this particular project has exceeded its original estimate was we wanted to make sure that there was enough additional capacity there in case there was some unforeseen circumstances in terms of the cost associated with the project. So that gave us some opportunity for those additional costs, and that was the reason for the additional expenditure.
Does $836,000 seem like a very specific amount and also a relatively large amount given the size of the project? So,
well, that particular amount does make reference to some changes that were made in the initial design, some better cost estimates that were provided from the engineer.
okay. Thank you.
Mr. Cronin?
I did a lot of digging in this since this is in my district and it's a very large project. I also met with the mayor and alderman and attended a meeting and also spoke with the gentleman with Gilmore and Bell. As far as the road project goes, the reason we have an amendment is there was an amendment made to the bill that in the event that the building doesn't get completed, the county's under no obligation to reimburse for this road. I think that's very protective language of the county, and I think it's a good thing. Beyond that, we have to draw the line of how much advice do we give a city, and that's an issue that's come before the council very often. You know, we tell St. Peter sometimes what they can and cannot do within a development. We don't tell O'Fallon what they can do with a road project. What should we tell Wentzville under a project that has a very strong effect on their finances down the road, be it successful, be it a failure? That being said, I think that the ultimate decision on this should be Wentzville, the city of Wentzville, because it's their risk to take on behalf of their taxpayers. Regardless of how you mince it, and you can call it a tax project to do it this way, but regardless, when you read the fine print, the city's issuing the bonds, the city will own the facility, the city is responsible for the bonds. Very similar to Lakeside 370, they have required the developer to buy the bonds, but there is the developer does have the ability to transfer the bonds to the bank that issues the money. So in a sense, Wentzville could end up owing the bank for the project. I do also have, there is a summer logistics center that was being built in Lordstown, Ohio. I called their mayor and talked to them in depth. Lordstown, Ohio is not financing a very similar development. There's a lot of stuff in this deal that being a very financially conservative person that sets off bells and whistles. But I think at this point, my job as a council member is to pass that information on to the aldermen and the city government of Wentzville and let them make the decision. If they make the decision and it proves to be a good one, then we need to be there to help assist with this roadway, because the developers clearly told me at a meeting that this project won't proceed without the road. If this is a mistake and this building doesn't get built, okay, then Wentzville will not get reimbursed by the county for the road. So I see the potential of this project being successful, but I really worry about the liability of the city of Wentzville. And that being said, if there's any other questions, I've done the best job I can reading a whole lot of documents about this. I can fill you in beyond that. But as far as the county's position, we're secured. The building gets built, they get their road board assistance money to get this done. The building doesn't get built, they don't get reimbursed. So from the county's perspective, we're financially secure in it. As far as the city of Wentzville, I would be worried a bit if I was them, but that's, I'm assuming that I'm having a hard time deciding, you know, how a county can justify telling St. Peter's what to do in Lakeside 370, but we can't really tell them what to do here. But I'm fine with it, because while it is tax abatement, it's not a TIF, and there's a fine line between those two, but I think they haven't crossed the line into being a TIF. So.
Okay, any additional questions or comments on 4220, substitute 4221? Seeing none, Donna?
Substitute Bill Number 4221, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Wentzville for road improvements needed to support the operations of a new logistics optimization center that will supply auto parts and provide other services to the Wentzville GM plant. Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
On behalf of the
Substitute-
city of Wentzville, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. The substitute Bill 4220 is passed. Moving on to Bill 4222.
Bill number 4222, an ordinance approving an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the city of Weldon Spring for the Weldon Spring Parkway.
Any questions or comments on 4222? Seeing none, Donna?
An ordinance approving an amendment to the intergovernmental agreement with the city of Weldon Spring for the Weldon Spring Parkway. Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes. 4222 is passed. Moving on to 4223.
Bill number 4223, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute an intergovernmental agreement for financial assistance, grant agreement number 2015002 between St. Charles County and the St. Louis Jefferson Solid Waste Management District for receipt of funds in an amount up to $50,000 and amending the 2015 budget adopted by ordinance 14-109 by appropriating additional funds in the general fund budget, environmental, public health, and protection.
Any questions or comments on Bill 4223? Seeing none, Donna?
An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute an intergovernmental agreement for financial assistance, grant agreement number 2015002, between St. Charles County and the St. Louis Jefferson Solid Waste Management District for receipt of funds in an amount up to $50,000, and amending the 2015 budget adopted by ordinance 14-109 by appropriating additional funds in the general fund budget, environmental, public health, and protection. Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
4223 is passed. Moving on to 4224.
Bill number 4224, an ordinance amending sections 230.010.a and 230.030.a ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO, relating to the food code.
Any questions or comments on 4224? Ms. Woodson, I got a question for you. Does this, you're addressing private kitchens if they bring, does this address anything to bring in like cakes and stuff to bake sale for church?
No, only for, if it was an event, a fundraiser of some sort, that they needed expedited permitting, we could do something like that, but not baking out of their homes. It doesn't apply to that.
So on page 2, section 12, any kitchen in a private home provided the food prepared in that kitchen is not ultimately offered for sale or is not potentially hazardous.
As long as it's not a potentially hazardous food, which is a very rare thing for them to be using for a bake sale.
Okay, so this does not affect anybody who's doing bake sales and church fundraisers and things like that?
In fact, it makes it a little bit easier on everyone.
Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, Joe.
Dealing with that same thing with St. Paul Picnic for many years, and I went to the Safe Serve class you guys gave. Essentially, you stay away from putting eggs in your cakes, okay? That's it. I mean, we were told that. And get rid of the lemon meringues, get rid of anything, unless you keep it cold, keep rid of everything with eggs. So, I mean, that's how you guard against salmonella, when you're making cakes at home and
Definitely
serve them
helps.
and these things. So, you guys give a very good class for that. I
Thank you.
enjoyed that, but it caught me a lot of problems at home because my wife, I would tell her she was doing something wrong and I would yell at her.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Steve.
Question, please.
Yes, sir.
So what about the haggis?
That's a whole nother topic.
Well, we're not legalizing haggis, right?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Faust is no longer on the board, so we're covered.
Thank you, Ms. Woodson.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Donna.
An ordinance amending sections 230.010.a and 230.030.a ordinances of St. Charles County, Missouri, OSCCMO, relating to the food code. Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Bill 4224 is passed. Move on to Bill 4225. 4225.
Bill number 4225, an ordinance amending the 2015 budget adopted by ordinance 14-109 to add one additional pay grade 10 bailiff within the St. Charles County Sheriff Department.
Any questions or comments on 4225? Donna?
An ordinance amending the 2015 budget adopted by ordinance 14-109 to add one additional pay grade 10 bailiff within the St. Charles County Sheriff Department. Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
4225 is passed. Moving on to 4226.
Bill number 4226, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute an agreement with the Cotterville Fire Protection District for tactical medics for the St. Charles County Regional SWAT Team.
Any questions or comments on 4226? Seeing none, Donna?
An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute an agreement with the Cotterville Fire Protection District for tactical medics for the St. Charles County Regional SWAT Team. Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
4226 is passed. Moving on to 4227.
Bill number 4227, an ordinance authorizing the chief of police to accept a donation to the St. Charles Police Department, St. Charles County Police Department, I'm sorry, the title's got some typographical errors in it. I'll start over. An ordinance authorizing the chief of police to accept a donation to the St. Police Department Division of Emergency Management from the St. Charles Regional Drug Task Force.
Any questions or comments? Do we need to make any changes with that?
St. Charles. Mine says it
The
different.
title that's on the bill says an ordinance authorizing the chief of police to accept a donation to the Police Department Division of Emergency Management from the St. Charles Regional Drug Task Force.
Okay, mine was from the first meeting, I guess, in the paper binder. So my final one, we must have caught a mistake in the title, maybe, just a typographical.
Okay, so are we good, or do we have to reread it? Joanne, or Harold?
The title that I have is the one that Joanne read, and it's the one from the first meeting, and I think it's clear.
Okay.
It is sufficiently clear. It's an ordinance authorizing the chief of police to accept a donation to the Police Department Division of Emergency Management from the regional DTA.
St. Charles Regional Drug for Okay, all right. Any comments or questions on this bill, 4227? Seeing none, Donna?
An ordinance authorizing the chief of police to accept a donation to the Police Department Division of Emergency Management from the St. Charles Regional Drug Task Force. Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Bill 4227 is passed. Moving on to Bill 4228.
Bill number 4228, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute agreements with federal law enforcement departments and other political subdivisions for the St. Charles County Police Department.
Any questions or comments on Bill 4228? Dave? Yeah. I was going to have you come up, but go ahead, Joe.
To the gentleman that's from my district that was concerned about this, this just allows the chief of police to work with those folks to try to get programs that will help our county, okay? So,
Okay.
I mean, just like you saw donated ATV, there's lots of grants and stuff that Mr. Todd acquires that helps law enforcement in the county. The federal government's not going to run our law enforcement. That gentleman right there is. And, you know, these are just agreements that they're doing housekeeping on in the language, that are the working agreements that he works with the FBI and all the other people he needs to work with.
Actually, we request agreements so everybody's clear what all the functions are. There's none of this is, may I go ahead? Yeah,
Go ahead,
None of
Dave,
this
yeah.
is new, but when we took over the charter, when the charter separated us in January, where the police department took all the functions, a lot of the agreements still said sheriff's department. We're going through the process. We still have the same people doing the same job. This is nothing new. There's nothing really secret. In fact, some of them with us, they use our training center because we all work together. That's one of the agreements. One of the agreements is you're just focusing on the federal. There's nothing that they're having any charge of it. In fact, we add our people to it, and most of our people have the functions in here. The federal authorities were late through local law enforcement, not vice versa. We will run and protect St. Charles County. Nothing's changed since January. The only thing that's changed is the title. Does that help answer your question?
Slightly. The only thing is it sounds like the bill is written that you're delegating authority to the county executive versus the individual who's responsible for the county police department. So what is that delegation of authority to the county executive, and what other authorities does he have in conjunction that's related to this bill? Because it would be different if you as a council said that the chief of the county police can enter into an agreement with the federal government, because then the people still have a person to relate to that has a law enforcement background or somebody who can actually enforce the law.
I think, though, where you're going with this is the difference between a sheriff's department and a police department. As everyone knows, I was opposed to the new police department just for those kind of reasons. But now that it's intact, the county executive, as per our charter, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is...
I think, Councilman, that what this goes to is that even with all the elected offices, including the current and former sheriff, the charter says that contracts are executed in the responsibility of the county executive.
That's what I was going to say, yeah, it's normal through the whole...
This is simply reciting the same language that was used even during the years that the sheriff's office oversaw this, even slightly before the split with the corrections department before that.
The sheriff had got the MOUs also. The only thing that's changed is the title.
It's just the way it is now, it's the way it's structured. It's all the department heads, whether it be him, whether it be the building department, whoever, it has to run through the executive. That's the way that our government is set up, so that's just the way it is.
But do we agree with it? I mean, is that
That's what the people
You know,
voted on
Mr.
when
Chairman,
they...
I agree, and I'll tell you why. He's a very fine law enforcement officer. He knows law enforcement very, very good.
Agreed.
And he's a very fine attorney that knows the law very good. By doing it this way, you're getting the benefits of both. The attorney can look at it to make sure the legal lease is fine. The law enforcement professional can look at it to make sure the law enforcement. So I really think it's the way we've got it right now is beneficial to the residents.
But just for a point of order, he's talking about a philosophical perspective, and what I'm explaining to you is I agree with what you're saying, but the people elected a police department over a sheriff's department. So the way it's going to be now is he is not elected. He is a department head, so to speak. Am I explaining this properly, guys?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just to clarify, this, even when the sheriff was basically responsible for this, he would tell you through an ordinance and myself that he wants to approve this. You would still have to have approved it then. I would still have had to sign the contract, just like I signed contracts involving the director of elections, and I signed contracts regarding the recorder of deeds. We generally don't go forward with anything that they don't want us to go forward with. But under the charter, those sorts of agreements, intergovernmental agreements, still had to be, have always been, and will always be needed. Will need your approval by an ordinance.
Correct. Okay. That makes sense. That's pretty. That's
sorry. We were having a conversation about the process. My only concern was, and you kind of explained it a little bit, that there is some due process to it, that it does have to come before the council before an agreement is reached.
Correct.
So the county executive does have to bring it and write an agreement that you all have to approve before we start allowing other departments into, the county. I mean, this is where I'm raising my family, so that's why I'm just concerned about it.
Okay. Well, thank you for coming in.
Actually, it works well, if I may, because they work with us. By us doing this MOUs, as the federal government, they can come and go as they please. By the MOUs, they have to work with us. And we have a very good understanding with all the federal agencies and the other agencies we work with that this is St. Charles County. And we take the lead in law enforcement. It doesn't matter what agency it is.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
All right, thank you, sir. Donna?
An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute agreements with federal law enforcement departments and other political subdivisions for the St. Charles County Police Department. Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes. Bill 4228 is passed. Moving on to Bill 4229.
Bill number 4229, an ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute an agreement with the St. Charles County Emergency Services Association Incorporated for the training of personnel and rescue dogs at highway department sites.
Questions or comments on Bill 4229? Seeing none, Donna?
An ordinance authorizing the county executive to execute an agreement with the St. Charles County Emergency Services Association Incorporated for the training of personnel and rescue dogs at highway department sites. Councilmember Klinghammer?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Cronin?
Yes.
Councilmember Hammond?
Yes.
Councilmember Brazel?
Yes.
Councilmember Hollander?
Yes.
Bill 4229 is passed. That concludes our bills for final passage. Are there any table bills to be removed from the agenda? Seeing none, does anybody have any miscellaneous or announcements? Seeing none, motion?
Move to adjourn?
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you for coming tonight.